Story 1. Last broadcast, The Vanishing of Station 46. In 1998, a small-town late-night radio station called Station 46 aired a distress call during its 3:12 a.m. shift. If anyone can hear this, they're inside the building. Listeners heard crashing sounds, a scream, then dead air. Police arrived within minutes. But the studio was empty. No bodies. No signs of struggle. Coffee still hot. Microphones still recording. The three-person overnight crew, DJ Marla King, producer Joel Ferris, and technician Darren Pike, were never seen again. Authorities shut the station down, calling it a technical malfunction and a misunderstood hoax. But in 2024, a digital archivist restoring old broadcast tapes found something horrifying. The tape from that night continues long after the station went silent. And the voices on the recording aren't human. The basement of the State Broadcasting Archives smelled like dust, warm circuitry, and the kind of quiet that could swallow a person whole. Metal shelves rose in narrow aisles, stacked with old reels, VHS tapes, and cardboard boxes labeled with fading marker ink. The hum of the fluorescent lights overhead buzzed like static, flickering every now and then, as if time itself wasn't fond of this place. Nathan Rourke stood at the entrance, lowering a crate of newly digitized tapes onto the table. He pushed his glasses up the bridge of his nose, exhaled, and checked the inventory list clipped to a folder. Project: Midwest Radio Archival Restoration. Assignment: Restore and digitize damaged reel-to-reels from 1980 to 2000. Archivist: Nathan Rourke. Notes: items in Box B46 severely deteriorated. Handle with care. Box B46. Nathan pulled open the drawer and slid out a battered cardboard box. The corners were soft from moisture damage, the top sinking inward as if something inside had crushed its spirit. He placed it gently on the table and lifted the lid. Inside were 7 reel-to-reel tapes wrapped in plastic sleeves. Most were labeled clearly: 1997 Public Safety PSA, Station 46 Winter Playlist, Joel's Pranks Compilation, Ad Log 1998. But one tape sat at the bottom, unlabeled, black plastic, no writing, no date, no index number. Only a sticker peeling off the back. 46, Night Log, written in hurried, slanted handwriting. Nathan frowned. He had cataloged thousands of tapes in his career, but something about this one felt wrong. Not dangerous, just wrong, like a misplaced puzzle piece that didn't belong in the box. He held it up to the light. Dust motes drifted around it, shimmering. Inside the clear window, the magnetic tape looked warped, brittle, but salvageable. "All right, mystery tape," he muttered. "Let's see what secrets you're hiding." He seated it into the Studer A810 tape machine, threading the tape gently through the rollers. The machine clacked softly as everything locked into place. Nathan hit record on the digital interface. Then he pressed play. The tape stuttered to life. A burst of static crackled through the speakers, loud and sharp, making Nathan flinch. He turned the volume knob down, eyes narrowing. For a moment, nothing but white noise and the distant hum of electrical interference. Then a faint voice emerged, slow, distorted. "Mic check. This is Darren Levels." Nathan leaned forward. Darren Pike. Station 40 SIXS nighttime sound technician. Reported missing on June 4, 1998. Never found. Nathan froze. This wasn't just any tape. This was from the night they disappeared. He turned up the volume. "We're about 5 minutes out. Joel's late again. Marla prepping. Storm coming in. Static's bad. This place eats signals." A woman's voice, light but tired. "Darren, stop exaggerating. It's just low pressure." Then someone else, laughing. Joel Ferris, their producer. "If we go off air again because of that storm, Marla is gonna murder me." On the radio. The pause. Someone tapping a microphone. Marla King. "We're not losing the feed tonight. Not again. Just everyone keep an eye on the board." Nathan shivered. This wasn't a normal broadcast log. This was behind-the-scenes chatter, internal communication that wasn't meant to be recorded. Someone had left the machine running. "Okay, we're live in 3, 2. A soft click. A moment of clean broadcast audio. Good evening, Station 46 listeners. Marla here with your late-night storm watch. If you're just joining us, heavy rain is heading in from the north, so stay safe out there. Thunder rumbled faintly in the background. Nathan typed notes rapidly, marking timestamps. Everything felt surreal. Listeners had heard the distress call back in 1998, but the original tape was supposedly lost, labeled as a technical malfunction and filed away incorrectly. But here it was, pristine, untouched, waiting. Nathan fast-forwarded. Static swelled. The storm grew louder. The tone of the voices became strained. "Joel? You hear that?" Darren whispered. "Hear what?" "That? Like someone talking over the feed." "No one else is scheduled tonight." "I know. But I'm telling you, listen." Nathan turned the dial back slightly, replaying the moment. In the background, beneath the storm and equipment hum, a faint whisper. Indistinct. Barely audible. But not part of the broadcast. Nathan's hands trembled slightly as he increased the gain. The whisper grew. A voice. Wrong. Too close to the microphone. "Help." Nathan stopped breathing. The tape crackled again. "Where are you?" He hit pause, heart pounding. "What the hell?" he whispered. Whispers on old audio weren't unusual. Cross-channel interference, accidental recordings, even ghosting from other reels. But this whisper was intentional. He rewound the tape and listened again. And again. Every time, the voice sounded clearer, as if it wasn't a recording at all, but someone speaking directly into the microphone. He leaned back, rubbed his eyes, and continued digitizing. On the tape, the tension inside the studio grew. "Marla, stop messing around. We're live, okay?" "Joel, that wasn't us." "Darren, check the hallway feed." "Marla, why?" "Darren, because someone's talking on our line." Someone exhaled sharply. "Joel, hold on, there's movement near the lobby." "Marla, movement? It's almost 4 in the morning, Joel." "Joel, I don't know what I'm seeing. Shadows. Maybe someone's trying to get inside." "Darren, doors are locked." "Joel, I don't think they used the door." The hallway camera feed crackled through the speakers. A faint scraping sound echoed, metal dragging on tile. Nathan froze the playback. The hairs on his arms stood straight up. He played it again. Fritt, like something crawling slowly toward the studio. The crew began whispering, afraid to raise their voices. "Marla, is this a prank?" "Joel, is this one of your stupid late-night bits?" "Joel, I wouldn't do this. Not now. Not with the storm. And I'm telling you, something's in the lobby." "Darren, shut up. Just shut up, listen." Nathan felt a lump lodge in his throat as the audio continued. A soft tapping. On the glass window separating the control room from the hallway. A woman's voice, not Marla's, drifted through the speaker. "Let me in." A scream. Cut off. Abrupt. Violent. The tape erupted in static. Nathan jumped in his seat, yanking off his headphones. For a moment, the room seemed to close in around him. The flickering lights buzzed louder. His own pulse roared in his ears. He took a shaky breath and pressed play again. The static cleared. Marla's voice, strained, panicked, burst through the speakers. "If anyone can hear this, please. Someone is inside the building, please." Nathan's blood ran cold. This was it. The infamous distress call. He let the tape run. Crashing sounds filled the studio. Equipment falling. People scrambling. Darren's voice yelling orders. Joel shouting something incoherent. Then a wet, guttural sound, like something dragging across the floor. Marla's voice cracked into the microphone. "Oh no, get away." A high-pitched squeal of feedback. A final choked gasp. And then, silence. Dead air. For almost 10 seconds. Nathan swallowed hard. He knew what came next. The official records ended here. The public recording ended here. The police report ended here. But the tape in front of him kept going. A soft click. A slow inhale. Then a voice, low, monotone, unnatural, whispered into the microphone. We were waiting. Nathan's entire body went numb. He stared at the tape machine. He hadn't imagined it. You found us. Nathan ripped off his headphones, stumbling backward, breath ragged. The voice continued even with the headphones unplugged, impossible, muffled but audible, seeping from the speakers. Don't stop the tape. Nathan slammed the stop button. The machine clicked off. Silence swallowed the room. But then, the room's lights flickered, and a faint whisper, barely there, echoed behind him. Play it. Nathan turned sharply. No one was there. Just shelves of dead broadcasts and empty air. His heart hammered against his ribs. He looked back at the tape machine, at the reel still threaded through the rollers, at the black, unlabeled tape that should not have existed, and against every instinct in his body, every ounce of rational thought. Nathan reached out and pressed play. The next morning began with rain. Not just a drizzle, but a cold, needling downpour that turned the motel parking lot into a shallow lake and made the neon vacancy sign flicker like a dying firefly. Harper didn't need an alarm. She had barely slept. Every time she came close to drifting off, the image of the tower, silent, windowless, impossible, reappeared behind her eyelids. By 7:30 a.m., she was already loading her camera bags into the back of the rented SUV. Vincent appeared a few minutes later, wearing the same wrinkled jacket from yesterday and looking like someone had shaken him awake instead of nudging. "You ready?" he asked, rubbing his eyes. Harper closed the trunk with a heavy thud. "Not even a little. But let's go." They grabbed 2 coffees from the motel lobby, burnt, watery, but hot, and headed toward Briar Hollow's sheriff's department. The streets were nearly empty, shrouded in a morning fog that clung to the storefronts like cobwebs. Vincent took a sip of the coffee and winced. How do people in true crime documentaries always look so awake? "I feel half dead." "Editing," Harper said. "Everything's editing." He smirked. "Great. Maybe you can edit out the part where I have a panic attack at the creepy abandoned tower." Harper didn't laugh. "You really think something is wrong with it?" Vincent hesitated. "I don't know. But when I looked at it yesterday, I swear it felt like it was looking back." Harper kept her eyes on the road. She wasn't superstitious. She wasn't gullible. She didn't scare easily. But she didn't dismiss that comment, either. The sheriff who hated questions. The sheriff's building was small and squat, made of beige bricks that had long since faded. A peeling sign above the door read Briar Hollow Law Enforcement. Inside, the air smelled like old coffee and even older carpet. A receptionist pointed them toward Sheriff Collings's office, though it was clear she wasn't thrilled about having out-of-towners poking around. Harper knocked lightly and pushed open the door. Sheriff Collings sat behind a cluttered desk, arms crossed over a chest that seemed too broad for the tiny office. He had the permanent scowl of a man born annoyed. "I thought I told you folks yesterday we didn't need media coverage," he said without looking up from the paperwork. "We aren't media," Harper said. "We're independent documentary filmmakers." "Media," he repeated like she'd told a joke. Harper resisted rolling her eyes. "We're just looking to understand why an entire hiking group disappeared with no trace." At that, the sheriff finally looked up. His eyes were a pale, watery blue, cold and suspicious. "There's nothing to understand. They got lost. Happens more often than you think." "But the trail they were on is marked," Harper said. "And the clearing where they disappeared is flat terrain. No cliffs. No rivers." "Ma'am," Collings said, leaning back in his chair, "people wander off. Maybe they panicked. Went deeper into the woods. Weather turned. Could have been animals." "All 6 of them?" Vincent asked. "At the same time? Without calling for help?" Sheriff Collings didn't blink. The wilderness does not care about your logic. There was something off about the way he said it. Too rehearsed, too dismissive. Harper pulled her notebook from her bag and flipped it open. "Is there any chance we could see the investigative files?" she asked, knowing the answer. "No. Not even redacted versions?" "No." Harper nodded slowly, pretending to accept it. Then casually, "What about the drone footage?" The sheriff's entire posture changed. He went still. Very still. "What drone footage?" he asked. Vincent shot Harper a confused glance. She kept her expression neutral. "We heard from someone in town that the sheriff's office sent a drone over the area where the hikers vanished," Harper said. "Just wondering if it picked up anything unusual." Sheriff Collings's jaw tightened. "There is no drone footage," he said sharply. "And whoever told you that is spreading nonsense." He stood up abruptly. "This interview is over. You got 5 minutes to leave my building. Don't come back." He stormed past them, slamming the office door behind him. Vincent exhaled slowly. "Friendly guy." Harper closed her notebook, heart beating faster. She hadn't mentioned it earlier, not even to Vincent, but last night, after they'd returned to the motel, she found an online forum thread from a local resident claiming that deputies took a drone to the tower clearing and immediately pulled the footage offline. The user posted only once and disappeared, and now the sheriff was lying about it, which meant the footage existed, and someone didn't want it seen. The old ranger. After the sheriff's department kicked them out, Harper and Vincent drove toward the Briar Hollow Ranger Station, hoping for someone less hostile. Halfway there, Harper's phone buzzed. A known number. She answered cautiously. "Hello." A raspy voice replied, "If you want answers, meet me behind the old mill on Creek Road. Noon." "Who is this?" The line went dead. Vincent stared at her. "Was that normal? Please tell me this is a normal documentary thing." "Nope," Harper said, starting the car again. "But whoever it is knows something." They reached the abandoned mill a little before noon. The rain had stopped, leaving the sky overcast and heavy. Birds weren't even chirping, it was that quiet. A tall, thin man with a white beard stood near the back door of the mill. He wore an old forest ranger's jacket, but the badge had been removed. His posture was rigid, as though he expected to be watched. "You the filmmaker?" he asked. Harper nodded. "You called?" "Name's Wesley Finch," he said. "Used to be a ranger here. Retired early." Vincent whispered, or forced out. The old ranger lifted his chin. "I heard that." "Sorry," Vincent said quickly. Finch sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. "I don't have much time. Folks in this town don't like outsiders digging around, especially not around the tower." "Why?" Harper asked. "What's actually going on?" Finch hesitated, glancing around before speaking. "That tower, it isn't new. Been there longer than anyone can remember. But it changes." "Changes how?" Vincent asked. "The height. The shape. Sometimes the entrance is there. Sometimes it isn't." Harper frowned. "Buildings don't change shape." "This one does," Finch said. "Seen it myself. And it's not supposed to be here." "What about the missing hikers?" Harper asked. "You think the tower is connected?" Finch swallowed hard. "I don't think," he said. "I know." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small flash drive. The metal casing was dented and dirty. "This," he said, handing it to Harper, "is the drone footage the sheriff denied." Harper felt her pulse hammering in her temples. "Why give this to us?" "Because someone needs to know the truth before this whole damn town disappears." Vincent tensed. "What does that mean?" Finch looked over his shoulder again. His voice dropped to a whisper. "The tower doesn't just take people. It calls them." Before Harper could push for more, a car engine roared in the distance. Finch's eyes widened. "I gotta go," he said urgently. "And you didn't meet me. You didn't see me. Understand?" He didn't wait for a reply. He ran into the woods behind the mill, disappearing between the trees with surprising speed for an older man. Harper and Vincent exchanged a look. "Okay," Vincent said, shaking slightly. "So, that was terrifying." Harper held up the flash drive. "And now," she said, "we see what the sheriff tried to bury." The footage. Back at the motel, Harper plugged the flash drive into her laptop. Vincent stood behind her, arms crossed tightly, chewing his thumbnail. There were two files. One labeled drone_01.mp4, and the other __.txt. Harper opened the video first. Static. Then a drone camera view flickered to life, flying over the dense briar hollow forest. The clearing came into view. The tower was in the center, just as Harper saw yesterday. A monolithic block of stone, smooth and seamless, reaching far higher than any building should without windows. But this time, the tower looked different. Taller, more organic, like it had grown. The drone circled, zooming in on the tower's surface. There were markings now, thin, jagged lines that almost resembled carvings, but they weren't static. They moved, shifted, like veins under skin. Vincent stepped back. What the hell is that? The drone lowered, moving closer to the base of the tower. And then, something stepped out of the clearing. Harper froze the frame. It wasn't one of the missing hikers. It wasn't even a person. It was tall, almost matching the height of the trees, with elongated limbs that bent at angles impossible for a human. Its surface looked like the same stone as the tower, smooth and gray, but it shifted like muscle under tension. Then the drone footage jolted. The camera shook violently, static ripping across the screen as if something had swatted the drone midair. The last frame before the drone collapsed to the ground was the creature turning its head toward the camera. No eyes, just a smooth, blank surface. But somehow unmistakably aware. The video ended. Vincent sat down heavily on the motel bed. "Harper," he whispered, that thing came out of the tower." Harper leaned closer to the screen, running the footage back frame by frame. "That wasn't there yesterday," she muttered. "It wasn't anywhere near the clearing." "So it moves?" Vincent asked. Harper shook her head slowly. "It wasn't just moving. It was growing." The log file. Harper opened the second file, log_txt. Only a few lines. Drone flight number 3. No signs of hikers. Tower appears altered since last flight. Movement detected on northeast side. Possibly animal? Unclear. Sheriff ordered immediate halt to surveillance. Tower may be. The last line was incomplete. Vincent lowered his voice. "They stopped the flight because they saw that thing." Or, Harper said, because they didn't want anyone else to see it. She closed the laptop. The room felt suddenly colder. "So what now?" Vincent asked. Harper stood up and grabbed her keys. "Now we go back to the clearing." Vincent paled. "Are you insane? After watching that?" "That footage wasn't from yesterday," Harper said. "We need to know if that thing is still there. Or if it's something else entirely. And what if it is still there?" Harper looked him dead in the eye. "Then we film it. Back to the woods." The drive back to the trailhead took less than 15 minutes, but every second felt stretched tight with tension. The sky was darker now, storm clouds rolling in again, thick and heavy. They parked at the same dirt pull-off as yesterday. The forest was silent. Too silent. Harper took her camera gear. Vincent took the audio equipment, though his hands were trembling. "You good?" she asked. "No," he said honestly. "But apparently we're doing this anyway." They walked into the woods. The path to the tower clearing felt shorter this time, maybe because Harper's mind wouldn't stop replaying the footage, frame by frame, like an obsession. When they reached the last bend in the trail, Harper lifted her hand. "Stop." Vincent froze. Something was wrong. The air felt thick, like humidity mixed with static. And the trees around them were bent, as though something massive had pushed through the forest. Harper stepped forward cautiously. Then she saw it, and her breath caught in her throat. The tower had changed. It was taller, much taller. Yesterday, it had been maybe 25 feet high, an anomaly, but still recognizable as a structure. Today, it was enormous, 50 feet at least, maybe more, and the surface was no longer smooth stone. It pulsed, slowly, rhythmically, like a heartbeat. Vincent's whisper cracked. "Harper, the tower's alive." The tower didn't just stand in the clearing anymore. It dominated it. 50 feet of shifting gray mass rose before Harper and Vincent like a spine of some prehistoric creature pushing up through the earth. The ground around it seemed tighter than the day before, drawn inward, sucked toward the structure as though gravity itself leaned. Harper swallowed slowly, raising her camera even as her breath trembled. "Record everything," she said. Vincent nodded, though his eyes stayed glued to the tower and not the audio monitor. A low hum vibrated through the air, deep enough to rattle their bones. Not loud, far from it, but impossibly heavy, like something underneath the ground was moving in response to their presence. "Do you hear that?" Vincent whispered. Harper didn't answer. She adjusted her focus, zooming in. The tower's surface wasn't stone at all. It was skin, faintly porous, mottled with thin pulse lines like veins beneath a translucent layer. Every few seconds, a ripple moved across it, an unnatural wave that reminded Harper of muscle spasms under flesh. She zoomed closer, and then she saw them. Handprints, smeared across the lower portion of the tower. Hundreds of them. Some faint, some fresh enough that the dirt embedded in the grooves still looked wet. Vincent stepped back involuntarily. "Oh God," he breathed. "Those weren't there yesterday." They weren't. Harper moved slowly toward the nearest one. Her heartbeat thrummed so loudly she could feel it in her skull. The handprints weren't just mud. They were indentations. As if the tower had softened, allowed a hand to push in, and then hardened again. Harper touched the edge of one, carefully. It was warm. Vincent grabbed her wrist. "Don't touch it." She jerked away. "I'm not sticking my hand inside it." "Good," he muttered. "Because that's..." He stopped. Harper followed his gaze. On the far side of the clearing, half concealed by brush, was something white and tangled in the undergrowth. "Is that?" Vincent whispered. "Yes," Harper said, setting her camera on record and starting toward it. "Clothing." They moved together, stepping through the flattened grass. The white fabric was caught on a thorny branch, tattered along the edges. Harper lifted it carefully. A shirt. Women's. Hiking style. The fabric was stiff. But worse. It was ripped. Not by thorns. By force. Harper's breath hitched. She turned it over. On the inside collar, printed in faint, faded ink. "Property of L. Parker, team lead." Vincent wiped sweat from his forehead. "That's one of the missing hikers." "Yeah," Harper said softly. "It is." She lifted her camera, documenting every angle. And then, something moved behind the tower. A shadow. Thin. Wrong. Vincent froze. "Harper, something's behind it. Something just..." "I saw," she whispered. "They didn't run. They should have. They knew they should have. But they didn't." Harper slowly shifted her camera toward the left side of the tower, where the shadow had passed. Then she heard it. A faint tap-tap-tap. Rhythmic. Like fingers drumming on a hollow surface. "Coming from the tower," Vincent whispered. "Please tell me that's the wind." Harper shook her head. "No wind makes that." She stepped closer. Vincent reached for her arm again but missed as she pushed forward. Tap-tap-tap. Tap-tap-tap. Slow. Patient. Calling. Harper raised her camera and moved to the tower's side. The sound stopped. She held her breath. Vincent crept behind her, ducking involuntarily as if afraid something above would pounce. One single, sharp knock. Right next to her ear. Harper flinched violently, stumbling back several feet. Her camera stayed tight in her hands through pure instinct. "Okay," Vincent said shakily. "Okay, okay, time to leave." But Harper wasn't convinced. She steadied herself and replayed the moment mentally. The knock, it wasn't random. It had rhythm, intent, communication. She lifted the camera again, panning across the tower's middle section. "Look," she said. Vincent didn't want to look. She could tell by the tightness in his jaw. But he forced himself. "What is that?" There, about 10 feet up the tower's wall, appeared something etched, though the grooves were far cleaner than the pulsating ridges. Letters. But undeniably human. Vincent whispered a curse under his breath. Harper zoomed in. "Someone carved this." "When?" Vincent asked. "This wasn't here yesterday, right? You filmed the whole thing." "Right?" Harper said. "So either someone came after us, or it changed again." Vincent exhaled through his nose. "Nope. I'm not doing a horror movie analysis moment. Let's get the hell out of..." The tower trembled. Not violently, but enough that both of them felt it through the ground. Like a breath. Like the tower was inhaling. Vincent stepped back. Harper. I know. We're leaving. The tower exhaled. A gust of warm, damp air swept across the clearing, smelling of earth and something metallic, almost like blood. Harper steadied her breathing, forcing herself to stay rational, logical, in control. Turn your audio up, she said. Vincent obeyed. In the background, beneath the hum, beneath the wind, beneath the low pulse. A whisper. Faint. Broken. But real. Harper's eyes widened. Do you hear that? Vincent turned pale. Someone's inside. The voice in the walls. They approached slowly, inch by inch, toward the lower left side of the tower. The hum grew louder, vibrating their bones. Then, through Vincent's audio monitor, the whisper sharpened, still faint but clear. Help! Harper felt her entire chest tighten. Elle, she called softly. Or any member of the Briar Hollow hiking group. If you can hear me, give us a sign. Silence. Tap tap. A pattern. Intentional. As if responding. Vincent looked at Harper in horror. Harper, this is not normal. Buildings don't. Another voice. Clear. Higher. Please. A woman's voice. Harper's throat went dry. Elle Parker. It sounds like her. Or someone mimicking her, Vincent whispered. Another whisper came, stronger this time. It hurts. Harper stepped back involuntarily. Vincent's heartbeat was visibly pounding in his neck. We can't help them, he said. We can't even get inside. Harper scanned the tower's surface. There is no inside, she said. No windows. No doors. No seams. Vincent squeezed the audio recorder so tight his knuckles went white. So how are they talking to us? Harper didn't answer. Because she didn't know. The wall that breathed. Something on the tower's surface shifted, catching Harper's eye. A bulge. It slowly swelled from beneath the skin layer of the tower, pushing outward like something was pressing from the other side. Human-shaped. A face. Harper's heart stopped. A face pressed against the interior surface. Distorted. Elongated. Eyes closed. Mouth frozen mid-scream. Vincent made a sound between a gasp and a sob. The face receded again, melting back into the wall. The tower went still. So, Vincent whispered hoarsely, "We're going now, right? Please tell me we're going now." Harper wanted to. She genuinely wanted to. But her brain, her investigative instinct, had already pushed her past fear. That was a person inside, she said quietly. Possibly one of the hikers. Nothing about that was a person, Vincent snapped. That was... He couldn't finish. Harper adjusted her camera, zooming back out. We need proof. We have proof. Vincent shouted. We have too much proof. Harper didn't argue. Because he was right. If they brought this footage anywhere, online, to authorities, to an investigative network, they'd be dismissed as hoaxers or lunatics. The footage was too surreal. Too impossible. They needed more. Movement flickered at the far side of the clearing again. But this time, it wasn't a shadow. It was a person. A man. Tall, bald, wearing a torn ranger jacket. Wesley Finch. The old ranger who gave them the flash drive. He stumbled into view, gasping for breath, eyes wild with terror. "Run!" he screamed. "It's awake!" Harper and Vincent both froze. Finch sprinted toward them, waving frantically. "Run!" The tower's hum deepened, turning from a vibration into a full-body tremor. The ground shook beneath their feet. A crack split across the tower's midsection, thin at first, then widening. Harper backed up. Vincent. I know, he barked, turning to grab the gear. The crack spread like a spiderweb. Something inside pushed outward. Finch reached them, grabbing Harper by the arm. "You shouldn't have come back," he shouted. "Now it knows you." "What knows us?" Vincent yelled. Finch didn't answer. The tower did. The crack tore open like a wound. A long, sinewy limb, gray, pulsing, jointed in the wrong places, slid out. Then another. The creature Vincent and Harper had seen in the drone footage crawled forth, towering above them, its blank face tilting as though sniffing the air. Harper stumbled back, camera still rolling, adrenaline exploding through her. Vincent swore loudly, scrambling away. Finch pushed them both. Now. The creature took a massive step into the clearing, the ground cracking under the weight. Harper grabbed Vincent's arm. Go! And they ran. The flight from the clearing. Branches whipped against their faces as they sprinted through the forest. Vincent nearly dropped the audio bag twice but clung to it like a lifeline. Behind them, the earth quaked. The creature was moving, chasing. Harper didn't dare look back. Every instinct screamed that if she saw it, she'd freeze. Finch ran ahead, shockingly fast for his age, shouting, "Don't stop! Don't look back!" But Harper did look back. Just once. And she wished she hadn't. The tower creature was faster than it should have been, despite its unnatural limbs. Each step caved in sections of soil. Its blank face was aimed directly at her, if it even had a concept of direction. "Harper!" Vincent yelled. "Move!" Something heavy slammed into the ground behind them, hard enough to send dirt flying over Harper's shoulders. They burst through the trees, stumbling down the slope toward the parking area. The SUV sat at the bottom, a lifeline. Vincent nearly toppled over the hood trying to reach the passenger door. Harper threw her equipment into the back seat as Finch jumped into the rear. "Geo," he roared. "Now!" Harper started the engine. A deafening groan erupted behind them. The creature burst from the forest line, trees snapping like matchsticks as it emerged into the open. Vincent screamed, "Drive!" Harper slammed her foot on the accelerator. The tower's purpose. They tore down the dirt road, tires skidding on mud, the engine screaming under pressure. Vincent kept looking back out of instinct, even though every time he did his voice cracked in terror. "It's still coming, it's still coming, it's still coming." Finch grabbed his shoulder. "Don't look at it." Harper swerved hard to avoid a fallen branch, gripping the wheel so tightly her knuckles went bloodless. "What is that thing?" she shouted. Finch swallowed, breath ragged. "It's not a thing," he said. "It's the tower's sentinel. The guardian." "Guardian of what?" Vincent screamed. Finch closed his eyes. The people trapped inside. Harper's blood turned to ice. "It's keeping them in?" Finch nodded, trembling. "And it'll keep you too," he said, "if you ever go back." Harper didn't answer. Vincent didn't speak. The creature finally disappeared behind the tree line as the SUV sped down the main road toward town. But the hum, the heavy, bone-deep hum, followed them long after the tower was out of sight. The storm arrived before sunrise. Rain slapped against the cabin walls like handfuls of flung gravel, and the old tin roof groaned under the weight of the wind. Nora woke to the long, shaking moan of the trees swaying, their branches clawing at the siding as if trying to get inside. For a few seconds she lay still, listening, letting the leftover terror from yesterday settle in her bones. Her dreams had been a mess, two overlapping nightmares that left a metallic taste in her mouth. One was the clearing again, but this time the ghostly figure didn't stand still. It reached for her, its mouth silently forming her name. The other dream was stranger, the inside of a house she didn't recognize, with peeling green wallpaper and a staircase that led nowhere, cut off abruptly as if someone had taken a saw to it. She remembered breathing hard in that house, someone behind her, footsteps that didn't belong to her. Nora sat upright, wiping sweat from her forehead. No more dreams. No more imagination. She had real things to worry about. Like the voice she had heard in the woods yesterday. Like the girl who never should have known her name. Like the fact that she had returned to the one place her mother warned her to avoid at all costs. She rolled out of bed, grabbed her phone, and immediately cursed under her breath. No signal. Not even a flicker. She held it toward the window. Nothing. The storm was strangling any chance of a connection. She dressed quickly, boots, jeans, sweater, and stepped outside onto the porch. The air smelled like wet pine and earth churned loose by the heavy rainfall. Cold wind tore at her clothes as she headed to her car, hoping maybe she could drive down the mountain for a signal. The moment she saw the tires, her breath caught in her throat. Flattened. All four of them. Cleanly, precisely, intentionally slashed. She froze, rain dripping down her hair and collar. This wasn't a prank. It wasn't wildlife. Whoever cut them had been close enough, confident enough, to approach the cabin in the middle of the night while she slept only feet away. Her hands shook with cold and something worse. Fear sharpened to an edge. "Okay," she whispered shakily. Think. She backed away from the car instinctively, as if expecting someone to still be lurking behind it. But the driveway was empty. The tree line was empty. Everything was washed in silvery motion from the rain, but she didn't see anything alive besides the restless forest. She hurried back into the cabin and locked the door. Then she locked the back door. Then every window latch twice. She grabbed her duffel bag and began pacing. "You're not going anywhere," a voice inside her head whispered. That was the point. Someone doesn't want you to leave. She didn't let the thought finish. Instead, she dug out her laptop, praying the storm hadn't knocked out the cabin's satellite Wi-Fi. She opened the lid and waited. A few agonizing seconds passed. The connection flickered awake. She immediately Googled Silverwood Disappearance Girl Woods 1999. At first, nothing helpful appeared, just tourist sites and articles about the forest's trail renovations. Nora's foot tapped anxiously beneath the table. She scrolled, clicked deeper, refined keywords. Then something surfaced. A local blog, archived and barely formatted, titled Silverwood Unsolved, The Case of Marley Thomas. Nora's skin prickled. The girl in the clearing had said her name was Marley. She clicked the entry. Excerpt. Posted October 12, 1999. A 13-year-old girl, Marley Thomas, vanished on a hiking trip with her parents near Silverwood Forest yesterday afternoon. Search dogs followed her trail to a small clearing before losing the scent entirely. Authorities are continuing the search, though worsening weather has slowed progress. 13. A girl in the woods. A clearing. Nora swallowed. Slowly she scrolled. Excerpt. Posted November 3, 1999. No remains were ever found. No evidence of foul play. No witnesses. Marley's disappearance remains one of the most unsettling cold cases in our county's history. There were a few photos, old, pixelated, showing a girl with dark hair, one dimple, and the same slender build as the child Nora had seen, except the eyes in the picture had brightness. The eyes in the clearing had been hollow. Nora stared at the screen for so long her vision blurred. There are coincidences, she thought. And then there are things that are not coincidences at all. She shut the laptop. She needed answers. But she also needed to stay alive long enough to get them. A sudden thud hit the back door. Nora jumped to her feet, her heart rocketing. She waited, breath held. Another thud. Softer. Like something sliding down the wood. She moved across the room slowly, step by cautious step, until she reached the door. She pressed her ear against it. Nothing. After a long minute, she forced herself to turn the knob. Rain blew in immediately, cold and misty. She glanced down. A rock lay on the welcome mat. A piece of paper was tied to it with twine, soaked but still legible. Hands shaking, Nora crouched and untied it. The paper held a single sentence, scrawled in dark ink, so dark it looked almost like blood. "Stay out of the clearing. She doesn't want you there." Nora shut the door hard and locked it. Her pulse thudded against her ribs with painful insistence. Not "I don't want you there." Was the warning from someone else? Another hiker? A local? Or someone who had been watching? She dropped the wet note onto the table, staring at the words. Why warn her? And why slash the tires if they wanted her gone? They didn't want her gone. They wanted her stranded. Another tremor of fear slid up her spine. The storm raged heavier. The cabin lights flickered once, twice, then steadied. For now. She went to the fireplace and fed it another log, trying to keep the room bright and warm. Fear retreated slightly with the light, though not by much. Then something else caught her attention. A faint beeping noise. She spun. Her phone, dead for hours, now lit up. One new voicemail. Timestamp, Unknown, no signal. Nora's fingers trembled as she pressed play. Crackle. The faint rush of static. Nora. Her breath stopped. It was a child's voice. You shouldn't have come back. Nora dropped the phone to the floor. That wasn't possible. There was no signal. No way to leave a voicemail. No way a dead girl could. The phone blinked again. One new message. The text preview read only. Help me. Nora backed away, her spine hitting the wall. What do you want from me? She thought. What am I supposed to do? But even as she panicked, something else tugged at her mind. An unwanted, intrusive connection she didn't understand. The ghostly girl had known her name. The voicemail had used her name. The note had been placed while she slept. This wasn't random. This wasn't coincidence. Someone through Nora. Or needed her. She sank into the chair near the fireplace, running her hands through her hair. She hadn't told anyone she was coming here. Not her friends, not her boss. She barely remembered the cabin existed until she found the deed in her mother's belongings after the funeral. Why would her mother hide this place? Why forbid her from coming here? And why did the name Marley Thomas make her stomach tighten with something like recognition, as if she had heard it long before yesterday? No answers came. Only more questions. Thunder shook the windows. Another noise joined the storm, the hum of tires on gravel. Nora's head snapped up. A vehicle. Approaching. Her heartbeat sped with equal parts hope and terror. Maybe it was help. Maybe someone noticed the storm and came to check on summer homes. Or maybe whoever slashed her tires wasn't finished yet. She killed the fire, darkening the room. She hurried to the front window and peeked through the blinds. A forest green pickup rolled into view. Headlights dimmed by rain. Mud splashed across the sides. The engine cut off. The driver door opened. A man stepped out. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a sheriff's jacket. Nora exhaled shakily, but didn't open the door yet. He approached the cabin slowly, scanning the driveway, the porch, the windows, as if expecting something to leap from the woods. When he reached the door, he knocked once. "Ms. Hall," he called out, voice deep, steady. "It's Sheriff Keaton. We got a call." Nora stiffened. "A call? From who?" she shouted back through the door. "A neighbor down the trail. Said she saw someone wandering near your cabin last night." Nora hesitated. There were no neighbors within miles. The nearest cabin was empty all year round. She cracked the door just an inch. Sheriff Keaton stood with rain rolling off his hat, his brown beard soaked. His eyes were sharp, watchful. Too watchful. "Mind if I step inside?" he asked. "We need to talk about what's been happening in these woods." Nora didn't move, didn't open the door wider. Something about him felt off. Not dangerous, but strained. "Did you slash my tires?" she blurted. He blinked. "What? No." "Then who did?" "That's what I'm trying to figure out." His jaw tightened. "But I need you to let me in, Ms. Hall. It's not safe out here during storms, and that clearing you wandered into yesterday." Her stomach dropped. "How do you know about that?" He exhaled, rain hitting his shoulders like bullets. "Because," he said quietly, "you're not the first person to see her." Her breath hitched. "Marley." The sheriff glanced over his shoulder at the darkened forest, then back at Nora. "Let me in," he said again. "Before she comes this way." Nora hesitated only a moment. Then she unlocked the door. Sheriff Keaton stepped inside, dripping onto the wooden floor. He shut the door behind him with a long, heavy sigh. Nora's heart hammered. He studied her, his expression softening slightly. "You look like you haven't slept." "I haven't," she whispered. "And I need you to tell me what's going on." He removed his soaked hat and ran a hand through his wet hair. "It's complicated," he said. "And it started years before you were even born." Nora's pulse thudded. "Before she was born?" Sheriff Keaton nodded toward the fireplace. "You should get the fire going again. What I'm about to tell you, you'll want the lights on." Nora swallowed hard, fear and curiosity battling inside her. She placed a log on the embers and struck a match. Flames crawled upward, bathing the room in a warm glow, pushing shadows into corners. Sheriff Keaton lowered himself into the chair across from her. And then, with a weight that felt ancient, he began. Marley Thomas didn't vanish the way the county said she did. And your mother, she was one of the last people who saw Marley alive. Nora gripped the arms of her chair. The world seemed to tilt. Her mother? Sheriff Keaton continued. And you're tied to this forest more deeply than you realize. The storm held around the cabin. But inside, the deeper storm had only just begun. Marley didn't remember driving back to town. She didn't remember parking. She didn't remember walking into her apartment and closing the door. All she knew was that for the first time since she'd returned to Grimes Ton, her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She replayed the moment again and again. The figure standing between the trees, the way the forest itself seemed to lean toward her, breathing, listening. And the worst part wasn't what she saw. It was those two words whispered behind her ear, as if spoken by someone standing inches from her neck. Help me. Not hostile. Not taunting. Desperate. Marley sank onto her couch and buried her face in her hands. She didn't know what terrified her more. The idea that something supernatural had spoken to her, or the possibility that a living person had. A knock hit her door, sharp and impatient. Marley jolted upright. Who is it? It's me. Sheriff Harlow's voice. She opened the door to find him standing in her hallway, jaw tight, hat in one hand, expression carved from stone. We need to talk, he said, stepping inside without waiting for permission. Marley locked the door behind him. What's going on? Harlow didn't sit. He paced instead, eyes darting around her apartment like he expected something to jump out at him. We found something, he finally said. Marley's heart lurched. Found what? Harlow stopped pacing and removed a folded piece of paper from his pocket. This was sitting on my desk when I returned from the clearing. He handed it to her. Marley unfolded it slowly, and her stomach turned to ice. It was a photo of her. Taken at the clearing. Taken today. The angle was perfect, captured from behind a cluster of trees, her face turned slightly to the right, her expression frozen in fear. Someone was watching you, Harlow said, and they wanted me to know. Marley felt her throat close. This doesn't make sense. It's worse than that, he said. Turn it over. She flipped the picture. Written in trembling marker. Don't trust the sheriff. Something deep inside Marley shifted, a cold, sliding sensation she couldn't name. Is this your idea of a joke? She snapped. Harlow didn't even flinch. I was hoping you'd tell me that, but I know for a fact I didn't leave the station unlocked. Meaning someone broke into a police building in broad daylight, went straight into my office, left that photo, and disappeared without being caught on camera. Marley's pulse hammered in her skull. And you think whoever took this picture also sabotaged your cruiser? She asked. Harlow nodded. And probably scared off the hiker 2 days ago. Or hurt him, Marley said softly. Harlow's jaw clenched. We're past pretending this is nothing, he said. You saw something today. Something that scared you. I saw your face when the forest went quiet. Marley didn't respond. She couldn't. Harlow sat across from her. What happened out there? Marley swallowed. I heard something. What? She almost lied. Almost. But something in Harlow's eyes, fear, maybe, or exhaustion, made her hesitate. It said, help me. Harlow didn't mock her. Didn't roll his eyes. His expression didn't even flicker. He just nodded once, slowly. I've heard it too. Silence snapped through the room. Marley stared at him. What do you mean you've heard it? 2 nights ago, Harlow said. I went back to the clearing alone. I needed to make sure the scene was secure. I was heading toward the old creek bed when I heard a voice whisper my name, right in my ear. Your name? He nodded, and then it said, You left me. A chill crept up Marley's spine. What did you do? She whispered. I turned around. No one was there. But the temperature dropped 10 degrees in seconds. My breath fogged and he paused, looking ashamed. I ran. I got in my cruiser and drove back to town like something was chasing me. Marley stared at the floor. Something was wrong with the clearing. And whatever it was, it wasn't new. So what now? Marley asked quietly. What do? We start by figuring out who's stalking you, Harlow said. Because whoever took that picture wants to divide us. And we can't afford that. He stood up. I posted a deputy outside your building for tonight, he added. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't talk to anyone you don't know. Marley nodded numbly. Harlow reached the door but paused before leaving. And Marley? She looked up. Whatever you saw today, whatever is out there, you're not crazy. She almost laughed. Almost. But all she could manage was a whisper. I wish I were. Later that night, Marley didn't sleep. She tried. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the distant hum of cars, the occasional bark of a dog, and the steady footsteps of the deputy stationed outside her building. But around 2:40 a.m., she sat straight up in bed. Something was wrong. The night was too quiet. Even the deputy's footsteps had gone silent. Marley slipped out of bed and approached her window. Her building overlooked a narrow street lined with lampposts, but tonight, the lamps flickered, dimming until they barely glowed. The deputy's patrol car was still parked below. But the deputy was nowhere to be seen. Marley's breath caught. A faint sound drifted through her window. A whisper. Her name. Marley. Her skin tightened, every hair on her body standing on end. Not real, she whispered to herself. It's not real. But the voice came again, softer this time, somehow pleading. Come outside. Marley stumbled backward from the window. Her door rattled. Someone was turning the handle from the outside. Marley froze. The doorknob jiggled again, slowly this time, almost rhythmically, like someone was toying with it. She grabbed a lamp off her nightstand, gripping it like a weapon. The doorknob turned halfway. Stopped. Turned back. Stopped. A single knock. Slow. Deliberate. Her heart pounded in her throat. Who's there? She demanded. Silence. She swallowed hard. Deputy? Still nothing. The knock came again. This time harder. Marley's legs trembled, but she stepped toward the door anyway, lifting the lamp. She pressed her eye to the peephole. The hallway outside was empty. Empty except for... Marley's chest tightened. A shape stood at the far end of the hall. Still facing her. Not a person. Not quite. A blurred outline, like smoke trapped in human form. It didn't move. Didn't breathe. Didn't blink. Marley stumbled back, slamming her shoulder into the wall. No. No. The whisper slid under her door like cold air. Help me. Then the shape rushed toward her door in complete silence. Marley screamed, and the hallway lights went out. The next morning, Marley woke to sunlight. She was lying beside her front door, lamp still in hand, her throat raw from screaming. The hallway was quiet. Nothing broken. Nothing out of place. She rushed to the window. The deputy's car was gone. A fresh wave of dread washed over her. Did something happen to him? She grabbed her phone. 15 missed calls. All from Harlow. Before she could call him back, another knock hit her door. So familiar. Marley? It's me. Harlow's voice. She opened the door. Harlow looked awful. Eyes red. Jaw tight. A deep exhaustion clinging to him. What happened? She demanded. Where's the deputy? Harlow stared at her for a long, terrible moment. Then he spoke. He's missing. Marley stared at Harlow, the words hanging between them like a noose. He's missing. Her throat felt suddenly tight. What do you mean he's missing? He was right outside my building. He was here. Harlow stepped inside, closing the door behind him. He looked like he'd aged 10 years since the night before. He checked in at 1:58 a.m., Harlow said quietly. Standard status update. Everything normal. No unusual activity. Then, nothing. Marley swallowed. When did you realize? Deputies switched shifts at 4 a.m. His replacement arrived. Car was still here. Lights were on. But the deputy gone. Harlow rubbed the bridge of his nose. No calls. No radio. Just gone. A wave of nausea crashed over Marley. Harlow, something was here last night. I know, he said. I could hear it in your voice. That's why I called 15 times. I thought, God, Marley, I thought maybe the reason he wasn't answering was because something happened to you too. She turned away, hugging herself. The truth felt ridiculous, impossible, like something out of an urban legend, but she couldn't deny what she'd seen. What exactly happened? Harlow asked, his voice steadying. Marley took a slow, shaky breath. I heard my name, she whispered. Someone whispered it outside my window. And then, something tried my door. Harlow stiffened. Someone or something? I don't know, Marley snapped. What do you want me to say? It looked like a shape. The person maybe, but not solid. Like smoke held together by strings. Harlow's jaw clenched. This is exactly what I was afraid of, he muttered. It's escalating. Marley turned back to him. Do you think the deputy... Yes, Harlow said. I think whatever's happening in that clearing, it followed you. Cruiser. Harlow and Marley went down to the curb. The cruiser still sat crookedly against the sidewalk, dew collecting on the windshield. Marley moved slowly around it, examining every inch. The passenger door was open. Not wide, just a few inches. Like someone had slipped out quietly. She nodded toward it. Was it like this when the shift changed? Harlow shook his head. No. It was closed. The radio inside crackled suddenly, making Marley jump. A faint static hiss filled the air. Dispatch to Unit 14, a voice said. Any update on Officer Perez? Silence answered her. Harlow walked to the driver's side and reached in to turn the radio off. But before his hand touched the dial, a different sound leaked through the speaker. A whisper. Barely audible. Cold. Marley froze. The whisper came again, louder this time, distorted by static. Can't breathe. Harlow recoiled from the radio like it had burned him. Get back, he warned. But Marley leaned in instead, staring at the speaker, heart hammering. The whisper shifted into a series of faint gasps. Then a word formed between them. Marley. She jerked back. No, she whispered. No. No. Harlow grabbed her arm. It's trying to draw you in. The radio clicked sharply, as if something had tapped the microphone from the other side. Help me. The same voice she'd heard in the clearing. The same voice from outside her apartment. Her vision blurred. Shut it off, she screamed. Harlow slammed the switch. The radio cut to silence. The two of them stood in the rising morning light, their breaths visible though the spring air wasn't cold enough for it. Something moved inside the cruiser, just a flicker in the rearview mirror. Marley's eyes snapped toward it. A smear of gray, just behind the bars separating the back seat. Then gone. Harlow, she whispered. It was in the car. But Harlow was already backing away. We're done here, he said. I need to get you somewhere safe. And I need to call in state police. This is beyond us now. Marley didn't argue. Because deep down, she already knew something no police force could admit. This wasn't a crime. It was a haunting. The interview room. The station smelled of old coffee, printer ink, and faint traces of bleach. Harlow led Marley into the smallest interview room. A cramped space with peeling paint, a two-way mirror, and a table that wobbled if touched too hard. You'll wait here while I call this in, he said. He hesitated, looking like he wanted to say more. Finally, don't open the door for anyone except me. Anyone. Marley nodded. Harlow stepped outside and closed the door behind him. Marley sat at the table, staring at her reflection in the mirror. Her eyes looked wrong. Too wide. Too hollow. She leaned closer. I'm safe, she whispered to herself. I'm safe here. She wasn't sure she believed it. Minutes stretched. 20. Footsteps passed outside the room. Voices. Phones ringing. Marley drummed her fingers nervously against the table. A sound from behind the mirror. Marley froze. She stood slowly, heart pounding. The mirror moved. Barely, just a fraction of an inch. Like something pressed against it from the other side. No, Marley whispered. No, no. The room chilled instantly. Her breath puffed white. And then, a handprint spread across the mirror from the inside. Thin fingers. Splayed wide. like someone, or something, was pressing its palm against the glass. Marley stumbled back against the wall, legs giving out. The handprint dragged downward, leaving a smear of fog. "Stop," she whispered. "Please stop." A whisper seeped from the mirror itself. "Help me." Marley clutched her head. "Leave me alone." The whisper sharpened. "You left me." The door flew open. Marley screamed. Harlow stood in the doorway, gun drawn. "What happened?" he demanded. Marley pointed at the mirror, sobbing. "Tarloden." The mirror was perfectly clear. No handprint. No fog. Nothing. "It was here," Marley gasped. It pressed its hand. "I believe you," Harlow said, holstering his gun. And Marley knew he meant it. But she also knew something else. Whatever she'd seen, it wanted her attention. It was trying to break through. A name at last. "Marley," Harlow said as he guided her back toward his office, "I called the deputy's wife. He never came home. He didn't text. Didn't call. No bank activity. His phone is off." Marley swallowed hard. "What does that mean?" "It means he was taken," Harlow said. "Just like the others." "Others?" Marley whispered. "What others?" Harlow stopped walking. He looked at her like he was about to confess a murder. "There have been disappearances in Grimes Ton for years," he said. "Most were quiet, spread out, unconnected on paper. But every one of them was last seen near the forest." Marley stared at him. "And you think?" "Yes," Harlow said. "I think all of them lead back to the clearing." "How many people?" she asked. Harlow's voice dropped. 14. Marley felt sick. "And you didn't tell anyone?" she demanded. Harlow's face tightened. "There was nothing to prove," he snapped. "Nothing solid. But the moment I saw what happened to you, I knew you were next." "Why me?" Harlow hesitated. "Because you're the only one who ever came back." Marley blinked. "What are you talking about? Came back from where?" Harlow pulled a file from his desk and handed it to her. A missing poster lay on top. A little girl. Big green eyes. Brown hair in braids. Name, Marley Crow. Marley felt the room tilt. This is me." "You went missing for 6 hours when you were a child," Harlow said. "Your mother called us frantic. We found your footprints leading into the forest. We searched for you. Nothing. But I don't remember that." "No," Harlow said. "Because when we found you, you were unconscious at the edge of the clearing. No injuries. No explanation. And when you woke up in the hospital..." He paused. "You kept saying the same thing over and over." Marley's voice was barely a breath. "What did I say?" Harlow met her eyes. "You said, 'There's someone trapped in the trees.'" The air seemed to vanish from the room. Marley's knees buckled, and she dropped into the chair behind her. "No," she whispered. "No. That's impossible. I would remember that." "Trauma can bury things," Harlow said gently. "But Marley, whatever's in that clearing marked you. A long time ago." Her hands trembled uncontrollably. She remembered nothing of being 8 years old in those woods. Nothing of being lost. Nothing of the clearing. But now the voice made sense. The familiarity of it. The desperation. It wasn't calling her name because she was a new victim. It was calling her name because she was the only one who had ever escaped. And it wanted her back. The morning after the storm broke over Wickford, the entire town seemed quieter, as if the soaked earth had swallowed sound itself. Detective Mara Ellington stood at her window, staring at the fog drifting across the pine tree-line. She hadn't slept. Not really. Every time she shut her eyes, she saw that single, haunting image. A little girl, hands folded, eyes blank, standing in the background of every photograph taken in Pinewick House. The girl no one remembered. The girl no one claimed. The girl who did not age. And the girl who had disappeared the moment Mara tried to approach her. The photograph from Dahlia Crane's room lay on her table, edges worn from how many times she'd picked it up and put it back down again. The Crane family reunion photo. 27 people lined up in front of Pinewick House. The girl stood in the far left corner. Expressionless. Dressed in a simple dress. And when Mara held a magnifier over her face, the same detail chilled her every time. There were no reflections in her eyes. No light. No depth. Just black. Completely black. A soft buzz from her phone broke the silence. "Sheriff Rowan, need you at station. Something you should see." Mara grabbed her coat. Whatever it was, she already knew. It was connected to the girl. The discovery. Sheriff Rowan greeted her at the front door of the Wickford Sheriff's office, dark circles under his eyes, his gray beard still damp from the rain outside. "You look like hell," Mara said. "Good," Rowan muttered. "Because I feel worse. Come with me." He led her past a deputy's desk and into the evidence room, where a long metal table held a stack of items, plastic bags, worn folders, and 3 sealed boxes that looked older than Rowan himself. "What am I looking at?" "Marist. Evidence from the 1984 Pinewick investigation," Rowan said. "The case that got shut down. Buried, actually. I thought that fire was declared an accident." Rowan snorted. "Everything in this town gets declared an accident, even when it's very obviously not." He opened the first box. Inside lay dozens of photographs, burned around the edges, faded, some warped from heat. But every one of them had the same signature. In each picture, somewhere, partially hidden, blurred by distance or shadow, the girl appeared. In the corner of a family picnic. Behind a group of children playing. Near the steps during a wedding. Standing in the hallway of the house. Watching. Silent. Still. Expressionless. Mara shivered. "She was at Pinewick House in 1984, Mara whispered. Rowan nodded grimly. "She was in photos going back even further." He pulled another folder from the box and spread out more images, sepia-toned photographs from the 1950s. And the girl, she was there too. Looking exactly the same age. Wearing nearly the same dress. "That's," Mara began. "Impossible." Rowan finished. "Yeah, that's what the original detectives thought too. Which is probably why someone higher up told them to stop asking questions." Mara leaned closer to one particular photo, a birthday party from 1952. Children wearing paper hats. Cake with candles. Streamers. And in the back, the girl. Every other child wore sunlight in their eyes. But hers were the same empty black voids. Mara swallowed hard. "She hasn't aged," she said softly. "Not in 70 years. Rowan exhaled. "It's worse than that." He reached into the second box. And he pulled out a police sketch. The breath left Mara's lungs. It was the girl. But younger. Maybe 6 or 7. Same dress. Same hair parted neatly in the middle. Below the sketch was a name, printed in faded type. Eloise Hartwell, missing 1939. Mara stared. What is this?" Rowan crossed his arms. "Her file. She went missing 86 years ago. Never found." Mara flipped open the thin file. Inside was a single newspaper clipping describing a child who vanished from her home while her parents slept. No signs of struggle. Door locked. Windows locked. The only detail that stood out was from the mother's interview. The house was too quiet that night. It felt like someone else was there. Watching us. Mara looked back at the photos. If this was Eloise Hartwell, she had existed in Wickford for 8 decades. Still a child. Still appearing in photos. Still haunting Pinewick House. But a witness long forgotten. Rowan tapped another file sitting unopened at the top of the pile. "This one is confusing," he said. "It was misfiled under property records. Probably on purpose." Mara opened it. Inside was an interview transcript from 1984 with an elderly woman named Agatha Price, one of the former maids of Pinewick House. Mara read aloud. "She follows the bloodline. Always the bloodline. Wherever they go, she follows." Rowan stepped closer. "There's more." Mara continued reading. "She knocks first. Always 3 times. Always when the house is quiet. That's when she tries to come in." Mara froze. Dahlia Crane had reported strange knocks before she disappeared. 3 knocks. Always late. Always when she was alone. Rowan watched her face darken. "Keep going." Mara scanned down the page. They think she is a ghost, but ghosts don't leave footprints. She does. Mara's pulse jumped. Footprints. In Dahlia's room. Well, but child-sized. She's not dead. She's trapped. Mara's skin prickled. Trapped where? Rowan pointed to the final line, the part highlighted in thick black marker. Pinewick House is not haunted. It is a door, and she is the one who passes through it. Mara felt a cold wave wash through her. A door. Not a haunting. A place. A threshold. What does that even mean? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Rowan rubbed his forehead. Agatha Price was senile, according to the original detectives. They thought she was just rambling nonsense. Except she wasn't wrong, Mara murmured. She picked up the sketch of Eloise again. Rowan, she's real. And she's connected to the Cranes, Rowan added. Every family photo she showed up in was a Crane event. Every unexplained incident happened to Crane relatives. Every missing person tied to that property was a Crane family member or someone close to them. Mara exhaled slowly. Dahlia Crane. Her disappearance. The locked attic. Her journals. The footprints. The voice in the vents. The photo of the girl in the clearing. Everything pointed to one truth. Eloise was not haunting the Crane family. She was watching them. But for what reason? The second photo. Rowan lifted one last evidence bag, a single photograph in an old envelope. This was mailed anonymously to the department the day after Dahlia disappeared, he said. Detectives didn't know what to make of it at the time. Mara slid the photo out. It wasn't old. It was recent, taken within the last few years. It showed Pinewick clearing, wide grass field, trees in the background, fog creeping low across the ground. But in the center of the photo, there was the girl. But this time, she was smiling. A faint, eerie, unsettling smile. Her head was tilted slightly to the side. And in her right hand, she was holding a small object. Mara squinted. What is that? She asked. Rowan swallowed. Zoom in. She used her phone's camera to enlarge the image. And her heart dropped. It wasn't a toy. It wasn't a trinket. It wasn't some random object. It was a bracelet. Dahlia Crane's bracelet. The friendship bracelet she never took off. The one described in her missing person report. The one never found. Mara's voice cracked. This means Dahlia was alive when this photo was taken. Rowan nodded slowly. Or the girl took it from her. Mara stared at the photograph, trying to steady her breathing. She's not just observing, Mara whispered. She's interacting. And taking, Rowan added. The room felt suddenly too small, the air too thick. Mara forced herself to look again. The girl's smile wasn't joyful. It wasn't playful. It was knowing, confident, triumphant. As if she understood something Mara didn't. As if she was taunting. The audio file. There's one more thing, Rowan said, voice low. Something you're not going to like. He opened a small evidence bag and pulled out an old cassette tape. Found in Dahlia's attic room, Rowan continued. Behind the wall panel the contractors removed. It had her name written on it. Mara stared at it. No one listened? She asked. The tape is heavily degraded, but our old tech guy managed to save a few seconds. He placed the cassette in the old player on the table. Brace yourself, he murmured. He hit play. Static. Hissing. Crackling. A child's voice. So, whispering. Right next to the microphone. She sees you. Mara's breath froze. Then a second voice joined the first. Dahlia's voice. Terrified. Shaking. Please, please just leave me alone. A loud bang. Scratching. A sob. Don't open it. A final unnerving whisper from the child. Then the tape cut out. The room was dead silent. Rowan exhaled shakily. That's all we got. Mara pressed her hand against her forehead. The cold metal table dug into her hip as she steadied herself. She was in Dahlia's room, Mara whispered. Inside. With her. Rowan's expression hardened. If she can enter locked rooms, if she can appear and disappear, if she can take things, then she can take people, Mara finished. Exactly like Dahlia. Exactly like Eloise 80 years ago. The connection. Mara paced the small evidence room, adrenaline humming through her body. There's a pattern here, she said. Eloise appears when a Crane family member is in danger. But she doesn't always harm them. Rowan raised an eyebrow. Kidnapping and taunting photographs count as not harming? Mara shook her head. I don't think she took Dahlia to hurt her. I think she took her away from something worse. Rowan stared hard. You're basing that on what? Mara stopped pacing. The fire in 1984, she said. Someone said it intentionally. Someone killed the investigators who looked too closely. Someone was trying to cover something up. Meaning? Rowan asked. Meaning the Cranes have a secret, Mara said. A big one. One that has followed the family for decades. And Eloise? Rowan asked. Mara looked down at the sketch in her hands. I don't think she's the threat, Mara said finally. I think she's the warning. Rowan's jaw tightened. Then who is the threat? Mara's mind raced. The locked attic. The missing girl. The old maid's warning. The whispers. The knocks. The fire that killed an entire investigation. Someone didn't want the truth to come out. Someone tied to Pinewick House. Someone with power. Someone who feared Eloise enough to bury every trace of her existence. We need to talk to the oldest living Crane, Mara said. The one who was there in 1984. The one who survived the fire. Rowan went stiff. You mean Margaret Crane, he said quietly. She hasn't spoken to anyone about Pinewick in more than 40 years. Mara grabbed her coat. She'll speak to me, Mara said. Because she doesn't know yet. She picked up the recent photograph of the girl holding Dahlia's bracelet. That Eloise is back. Rain hammered the town of Wickford like an angry fist, rattling window panes, flooding gutters, and turning the forest roads to black mud. But even the storm couldn't drown out the sound. That slow, groaning hum crawling beneath the wind. Liam heard it before Nora did. They were halfway down Bell's Crossing, soaked, panting, fleeing after what they'd found in Sheriff Dalton's basement. Those photographs, the ritual symbols carved into bone, the ledger marked with names that were never supposed to be spoken again. But it wasn't the evidence that chased them. It was the sound. That humming. Wrong. Alive. Liam, Nora stopped in the middle of the road. It's getting louder. Liam grabbed her wrist. Don't stop. That's what it wants. What is it? She whispered. He didn't answer. Because he knew. Because he had finally remembered the thing Wickford made everyone forget. The first shift in the dark. Lightning split the sky. For a moment, Liam saw something at the far end of the road. Tall as a street lamp, thin as a dying tree, limbs bending the wrong way. Just a silhouette. A suggestion. Then darkness swallowed it again. Nora clutched his arm, shaking. Liam, did you see? Yes, he said. Keep walking. Don't run. Running makes it follow faster. How do you know that? He swallowed. Because it followed us when we were kids. Nora didn't ask anything else. They just kept moving. The cabin. Liam led them off the road, through tangled brush, to a rotting cabin half collapsed into the woods. Moss grew thick on the shingles. A tree trunk punched through one corner of the roof. This place? Nora whispered. Seriously? It won't come inside if we don't invite it, Liam said. That sounds like vampire logic. It's older than vampires. Another lightning strike. The clearing behind them brightened, and the silhouette was closer. 15 feet away. Still watching. Nora bolted into the cabin. Liam slammed the door behind them, wedging a broken chair under the handle. Inside smelled like mold, wet wood, and something sweetly rotten. Liam, Nora whispered, what did you mean earlier? About it following us when we were kids. He didn't answer immediately. He couldn't, because saying it aloud meant admitting that everything he'd locked away, everything Wickford had buried, was clawing its way back. The locked memory. The cabin's fireplace hadn't been used in years, but Liam still lit one of the old oil lamps off the mantel. Nora stood close, shivering despite the heat. The night Ellie disappeared, Liam began, you and I were with her. Nora froze. No, she said. No, I wasn't. I never. You blocked it out. The whole town did. Nora backed away from him. I would have remembered being with Ellie. I would have. You did. Liam stepped closer. And you remember something else too. Something you think was a nightmare. Nora's eyes flickered. She did remember something. The forest. The cold. Ellie screaming her name. Nora. But that wasn't possible, right? Liam continued. Ellie ran into the woods because she heard someone calling her. Nora felt her stomach curdle. A voice calling her name. Come back. It wasn't a memory she wanted. Ellie wasn't running from someone, Liam whispered. She was running toward something. Toward the thing that mimicked Nora's voice. Nora's lips trembled. It sounded like me? Lightning flashed through the broken boards. A shadow flickered behind the cabin window. The humming rose, closer, hungry. Liam, she whispered, it's here? No, he shook his head. It's waiting. For what? For us to open the door. The cabin fell into utter silence. No thunder. No rain. Just the sound of breathing that wasn't theirs. Something scraped across the roof. Slowly, deliberately. Nora's knees buckled. She grabbed the table to stay upright. It's on top, she whispered. It's on the roof. The scraping stopped. A soft knock against the front door. Then another. Like a polite visitor waiting to be invited inside. Don't answer, Liam breathed. No matter what. Nora backed away. Her heart thrashed, every beat a scream. The tapping grew into a gentle scratching. Like nails tracing the wood. Liam, she whispered, what does it want? To finish what started when we were kids. The voice. The wind outside stopped entirely. Then a voice drifted through the cracks of the door. A perfect imitation of Sheriff Dalton. Kids? You can open up. Everything's all right now. Nora's jaw tightened. That's not him. It's practicing, Liam said. Practicing? Trying out voices. Testing which one gets the door open. The voice changed. So, feminine. Nora. Nora's blood iced. Mom, she whispered. Liam grabbed her hand. It's not your mother. Nora, sweetheart, please. I'm outside. I can't see in the dark. Nora's eyes burned. Stop. Stop it. Nora. Liam forced her to face him. Your mother isn't in the woods. She hasn't left the house in years. The voice outside sharpened. Less human. More teeth in the vowels. You mean? The door handle twitched. The chair wedged beneath it groaned. Nora squeezed her eyes shut. Why is it calling for me? Why not you? Because you were the one it wanted that night, Liam whispered. Ellie just got in the way. Nora's breath hitched. She didn't want this. Didn't want these memories. Didn't want this truth clawing out of the dark. Why does it want me? She whispered. Because you answered it once. The memory returns. The humming in the cabin walls vibrated the floorboards. Nora clutched her head as a memory slammed into her like a wave. The forest. Ellie running ahead. Nora calling after her. Stop, Ellie. Come back. And then, another voice. Her own voice. But stretched. Echoing. Like her mouth was full of broken glass. This way. Ellie screamed her name because the thing in the woods was wearing her voice. She remembered running. She remembered grabbing Ellie's arm. She remembered the shape behind them, tall, crooked, faceless, reaching, and then everything went black. When she opened her eyes, Ellie was gone. Nora collapsed to her knees. Oh my God, she choked. It wasn't a nightmare. It was real. Liam crouched beside her. You survived because I dragged you out, he said quietly. But Ellie, his voice cracked. Nora clutched her head. She died because of me. She died because the thing chose you. The humming outside turned into a rumbling growl. Something slammed into the cabin wall. Hard enough to shake dust from the rafters. Liam. Nora whimpered. It's losing patience. The crawling shadow. The lamp began to flicker. Then the flames stretched thin, like something was sucking all the air out of the room. A black smear crawled beneath the crack of the front door. At first, Nora thought it was rainwater. Then it grew a shape. Fingers. Long, twitching fingers. They slid under the door frame, gripping the wood like a living shadow. Nora screamed and stumbled back. The fingers stretched, flattening, crawling across the floor like black tar. "Don't touch it!" Liam shouted. She jumped onto the chair. The shadow fingers slithered toward her, reaching up the chair legs like vines. Liam grabbed the oil lamp and hurled it toward the door. Glass exploded. Flames roared across the floorboards. The shadow jerked back like a scorched animal. It shrieked, a sharp, metallic screech that made Nora's vision pulse white. The flames sputtered, dimmed, died within seconds. Snuffed out by an unseen force. Liam cursed. "It's learning faster than last time." Nora stared at him. "Last time?" He didn't answer. The name. The creature outside slammed its body, or what passed for one, against the door. The wood splintered. The chair wedged beneath the handle skidded an inch across the floor. "We have to run," Nora gasped. "Into the storm? It's faster than we are." "Then what?" "We say its name." Nora froze. "What name?" Liam stood completely still. He didn't look at her when he said it. "We opened its name when we were kids." Nora shook her head violently. No, I don't remember anything like that." "You don't want to remember." Another strike against the door. "You told me to never say it again," Liam whispered. "You said it once, and everything in the forest changed. The air, the ground, the shadows. You said the name, and it came." Nora backed away from him. "I don't know any name." "You knew it that night," Liam said. "It whispered it to you. And you repeated it." The thing outside pressed its face, a flat, shifting smear, against the window slats. A shape like a mouth stretched across the glass. Liam grabbed Nora's shoulders. "You have to remember." "I can't." "You did before." "That was when I was a child." The door cracked inward another inch. A black limb slid through the split wood. Liam's voice broke. "Nora, it won't stop until you remember the name you gave it." She stared at him, heart rattling, throat dry, tears burning. "I didn't give it a name," she whispered. "Yes," Liam said. "You did." He leaned closer, breath trembling. "Because it asked you what you wanted it to be called." The final shove. The creature shoved the door open wide enough for a hand to slip through. A hand made of darkness. It waved blindly, feeling the air, searching. Nora screamed. Liam grabbed a sheet of plywood from the floor and jammed it into the gap. The arm twisted. Around the wood. Through Liam's hand. He howled in pain as the shadow pierced through his palm like a spike. Nora snapped into motion. She grabbed a rusted axe from the corner of the cabin and swung with a scream. The blade sliced through the shadow limb. It didn't bleed. It evaporated. A shriek tore through the clearing, shaking the cabin walls. The severed shadow recoiled out the door crack. Nora threw herself beside Liam, clutching his bleeding hand. "Oh God, Liam." He forced a tight breath. I'm fine." He wasn't, but the creature had pulled back. For now. The memory breaks open. Nora pressed her forehead to Liam's. "I can't remember the name," she whispered. "I swear I can't." Liam cupped her face with his uninjured hand. "Try." "I am." He closed his eyes. "Nora, think of Ellie." She froze. She couldn't. She wouldn't. But the storm outside dimmed. The wind died. The forest fell silent. And the memory, that buried, rotting thing, finally clawed its way to the surface. The clearing. The circle of stones. Ellie screaming. The voice whispering in her own voice. "Say it. Say my name." Nora's lips parted. She remembered. And she wished she hadn't. Because the thing didn't give her its name. She gave it one. A name born of childhood imagination, fear, and darkness. A name powerful only because she believed it. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "Hollow Man." The forest answers. The woods outside convulsed. Trees bowed inward. The soil shivered. Windows shattered as a scream poured through the clearing. Not human. Not animal. Something older. Liam stared at her, horrified. You said it. Nora shook. He wanted me to. The storm rolled in as if summoned by the unseen forces that had plagued Wickford for more than a century. Clouds stacked like bruises across the sky, the wind shrieking through broken gutters and skeletal trees. On any other night, Rowan might have welcomed the rain, anything that drowned out the whispering voices she kept hearing, but tonight it only made everything worse. The thunder sounded like something enormous pounding on the gates of the world, demanding to be let in. Her hands shook as she locked her front door, triple-checking it, quadruple-checking it. The lights flickered overhead. She kept telling herself she wasn't trapped inside the house. This wasn't like the others. Camille Baker, Jonah Pearl, the Holloway family. All locked in, all vanished. All on nights exactly like this one. Her phone buzzed. Detective Marlowe, don't go anywhere tonight. I'm on my way. Rowan swallowed hard. She didn't want to be alone, but she didn't want him here either. Not with the thing that moved outside in the dark, watching her through windows she couldn't cover fast enough. The Shadow Man. The tithe collector. The figure her great-grandmother had described in diaries written with shaking ink strokes, as if she were trying to outrun the very words. Her breathing hitched as she spotted something at the corner of her living room window. A figure. So, not quite shaped right. She stepped back fast, bumping the table hard enough that one of her framed photos clattered to the floor. Everything felt cold immediately, like the furnace had cut off. But it hadn't. She could hear it running. The cold was coming from him. Lightning flared bright across the sky. And the figure disappeared. Rowan gasped, grabbing the nearest object. A kitchen knife. Her phone slipped from her pocket and bounced across the hardwood, landing near the hallway. She didn't retrieve it. She couldn't move. The lights flickered again. A voice whispered behind her ear. You are the ninth. Rowan spun around, knife raised. There was nothing there. Only the slow thump of her heartbeat, loud enough that she heard it in her teeth. She should run. She should scream. But her legs felt rooted to the floor. Another whisper. The ninth to be offered. No, she whispered. Not me. Not this time. But Wickford didn't care what she wanted. It never had. The scratching at the door. The scratching began at exactly 10:09 p.m. Slow, rhythmic, like someone testing the wood to see if it would splinter easily. Rowan froze on her couch, still clutching the knife. She had tried to turn the TV on to drown out the whispers, but even the television seemed unwilling to help. The signal kept cutting to static, full of vague shapes moving behind the white noise. Fret. Her heart dropped as she recognized the pattern. 3 scratches, then a single long drag. It was the same pattern carved into Camille Baker's front door when she vanished. Rowan rose slowly. Each step closer to the door made her see things that weren't there. Shadows slipping behind furniture, reflections in darkened windows that didn't match her movements, streaks of black smearing across the floor like footprints. She reached the door and whispered, "Go away." The scratching stopped instantly. Silence. Then a knock. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 knocks. 9 offerings. 9 chosen. Rowan's breath hitched. You can't have me. Thunder exploded overhead as if laughing. From the staircase behind her came the unmistakable creak of a footstep. Rowan whirled around. Another footstep. Higher up this time. Slow. Deliberate. Coming down. No, she breathed. No, no, no. She backed away from the stairs. Another footstep. Then a whisper from above. Rowan Meredith. Her full name. The name written in her great-grandmother's final entry. The entry where she warned that the Meredith bloodline was marked by the night of tithing. Rowan stumbled backward until her shoulders hit the wall. She couldn't breathe. Who's there? She said, her voice breaking. Silence. A hand appeared around the banister. Long, too long. Skin stretched tight over bone. Fingers tipped with shadow, dripping darkness. Rowan screamed. The lights went out. The old diaries. The house plunged into blackness. Total, suffocating blackness. Rowan stayed still. She didn't dare run. Movement made noise. Noise made opportunity. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her head, words spoken to Rowan when she was 6 years old and far too young to understand. The thing in the dark doesn't move until you do. The advice had seemed like nonsense back then. Now it could save her life. She remained frozen, clutching the knife. It was so quiet she could hear her own blood in her ears. Rustling. Paper like from the dining room. Her grandmother's diaries. The sound grew louder, pages turning faster and faster, as if something were flipping through them. Rowan fought the urge to run. She forced herself to breathe slowly, evenly. The pages stopped. A heavy slam echoed through the room. Rowan flinched violently. Then she heard footsteps, 2 sets of them. One heavy, one impossibly light. The lighter steps were too fast, too skittering, circling the room like an animal stalking prey. "Please," Rowan whispered. "Don't." A faint click came from the hallway. Her phone screen lit up the darkness. A text message had been sent from her number. She crept closer, shaking. The message log read, "To you, Detective Marlowe. She is ready." Rowan's mouth went dry. The text below it chilled her blood. "Marlowe, I'm here." The man on the porch. Headlights washed across her living room window. Rowan's hope flared. Marlowe would help her. He'd seen the other cases. He believed her from the beginning. But as the car door shut outside, Rowan noticed something strange. The scratching at the door began again. Not from the outside. From the inside. "No," Rowan whispered. "He's already inside." Panicking, she ran toward the window to wave Marlowe back, to warn him, but when she pulled the curtain aside, a bolt of terror locked her in place. Marlowe stood on the porch. But it wasn't him. His eyes were wrong, hollow, entirely black. His mouth hung slightly open, as if someone else were pulling the strings of his body. And behind him, standing several feet taller, was the real monster, the tithe collector, its long, thin arms wrapped over his shoulders like a puppet master. Her breath fogged the glass. Her grandmother's words came again. They take a villager every 7 weeks. A soul for a soul. A keeper for a keeper. And those who resist are taken last. Rowan stumbled back so violently she crashed into a chair. Outside, Marlowe tilted his head slowly, much too slowly, and raised one hand in a greeting that was stiff, mechanical. Then the porch light flickered, and he was gone. Just gone. The rain hit the window in sheets now, screaming like something alive. Rowan backed away, knife trembling in her grip. She knew what the old diary said. She knew what her family had always tried to forget. Her great-grandmother had helped start it. Martha Meredith. The woman who led the old Wickford coven. The woman who made the pact. The woman who condemned them all. The realization. Rowan ran to the dining room, grabbing the closest diary and flipping through its pages. She skimmed past warnings, sketches of the creature, notes about offerings and harvests, and a ritual called the Night of Tithing. She found the passage she'd been looking for, the reason she was the target. It was written in jagged handwriting. The 9th Meredith child will be taken as payment for the broken pact. Rowan's eyes widened. She counted quickly in her head. Her mother had 8 siblings. Rowan was the 9th child born to the extended Meredith family. Her bloodline made her the final offering. She choked on a sob. This can't be real. But the shadows on the walls stretched unnaturally, slithering toward her. Rowan slammed the diary shut, and the lights came back on. The house breathes. For a moment, Rowan thought the nightmare was over. Then she realized the house was moving. The walls expanded slightly, then contracted, as if the entire structure were breathing. No, this isn't real. She pressed her hand to the nearest wall. It pulsed beneath her palm. The house was alive. Or something inside it was controlling everything. The breathing grew louder, like a heartbeat made of wind and shadow. Each inhale drew the lights dimmer. Each exhale rattled the floorboards. Rowan stumbled backward. Every light in the house flickered in rhythm with the building's breaths. The stairs creaked again. This time fast. Heavy. Running. Something was coming down. Rowan ran toward the back door, yanking it open. and froze. Fog filled the yard, swirling in a perfect circle as if stirred by invisible hands. Shapes moved within it, tall, thin figures whose limbs dangled too long and whose heads tilted at unnatural angles. They shifted silently, like puppets floating through water. Her backyard was filled with them. Dozens. Hundreds. All watching her. When she blinked, they were suddenly closer. She slammed the door shut. The whispering hour. Her phone buzzed again. A new text. "Marlo, you can't run from what you owe." Rowan hurled the phone across the room. It shattered against the wall, batteries skidding under the couch. The storm thundered again. The house rattled violently. Then, from the kitchen, she heard faint tapping. She stepped toward it slowly. The tapping grew louder, faster, urgent, until it became banging. Rowan raised the knife with both hands. "Stop!" she screamed. "Just stop." The banging stopped instantly. The silence afterward was worse. A voice came through the vent in the ceiling. A child's voice. So frightened. "Help, please." Rowan stepped closer involuntarily. The voice whimpered. "It hurts, please." Lightning flashed, illuminating a shadow crawling across the ceiling, its limbs bending backward as it moved toward her. Rowan screamed and dove behind the kitchen island. The shadow dropped to the floor with a wet thud, then stood and smiled. The tithe calls. Rowan bolted toward the basement door, the only place she hadn't checked for safety yet. The basement had no windows. It would be dark. It would be confined. But it would be away from the things crawling on her ceiling and whispering through the vents. She sprinted down the stairs and slammed the door behind her, plunging the basement into near total blackness. Her breathing echoed against concrete walls. She fumbled for the light. It flicked on, and she froze. The basement was full of candles. Hundreds. Arranged in a perfect circle. Her grandmother's altar stood in the center. A stone slab covered in old runes, dried herbs, and a rusted silver bowl that had long ago been used for blood rituals. The candles all lit themselves at once. A wind swept through the basement despite there being no vents or windows. Then a single line of text appeared on the far wall. Written in shadow. Growing darker. Sharper. Alive. The tithe is due. Rowan backed away until she hit the stairs. Footsteps echoed overhead. Slow. Descending. She was cornered. Nowhere left to run. The final revelation. As the footsteps reached the basement door, something clicked inside Rowan's mind. A puzzle piece she hadn't understood until now. Why the killings started up again. Why the tithe collector had returned. Why she was being hunted before anyone else this cycle. Martha Meredith didn't just help start the pact. She was the first to break it. And Rowan, she wasn't just the 9th Meredith child. She was the only one born under the blood moon, the one night the pact warned would draw the collector to the next appointed vessel. The vessel wasn't chosen arbitrarily. It was her. It had always been her. The basement door slowly creaked open. Darkness spilled down the stairs like a living thing. And the tithe collector stepped inside. Its body stretched unnaturally tall, spine arching, limbs dragging like smoke. Its face was a void, a black hole in the shape of a human skull. Its fingers scraped the floor, leaving trails of shadow that curled like snakes. Rowan raised the knife. The creature tilted its head. Then it spoke. Not in words. In memories. Rowan saw every victim at once. Camille, Jonah, the Holloways. All of them staring at her. All of them reaching. All of them whispering, "Join us." Rowan screamed. The candles blew out. The basement went dark. Two bright, empty eyes opened in the blackness. And the collector smiled. The darkness in the basement felt thicker than air, like fabric pressed against Rowan's face. She couldn't tell where the walls were, couldn't tell where the floor ended and the shadows began. The only thing she knew for certain was that the tithe collector had stopped moving. It stood no more than 6 feet from her, but its presence filled the entire basement. Rowan's hand tightened around the knife until her knuckles ached. "You can't have me," she whispered into the void. The answer slid into her skull like an ice-cold nail. "You are already mine." Rowan staggered back. The voice didn't enter through her ears, it bypassed them, vibrating straight into her bones. The darkness around the creature pulsed in slow, heart-like waves. Every breath she took felt stolen from someone else. A single candle relit itself behind her. Then another. And another. The entire circle of candles burst back to life in a sudden ring of pale orange light. That was when Rowan realized she and the collector were no longer alone. The shadows behind the creature lifted their faces. Faces she recognized. Faces she had seen in missing posters and police case files. Camille Baker. Jonah Pearl. The Holloways. Others she didn't know. Their eyes were hollow pits of darkness, their mouths hanging open in expressions of silent, trapped screams. Bound souls. Offerings past. They reached for her. Rowan backed farther away, toward the stone altar. "You can't keep doing this," she said. "You can't take people. A pact is a pact." The collector stepped forward, its feet not quite touching the ground, shadows coiling beneath it like tendrils. "A pact my family never agreed to. A pact made generations ago, by people who are dead." The collector leaned its head forward, the deep void of its face inches from hers. "A pact sealed in blood never dies." Rowan's stomach twisted. She knew it wouldn't listen. But she wasn't trying to reason. She needed time, needed to think, needed to survive long enough to understand the rules her great-grandmother wrote about decades ago. Her eyes darted to the rusted silver bowl on the altar. Blood binds, the diaries had said. Blood seals. Blood trades. "What if," she whispered, "I make you an offer?" The shadows in the room stilled. The creature straightened. The souls behind it quieted. For the first time since the night began, the collector waited. Rowan swallowed. "Let them go," she said. "Release every soul you've taken from Wickford. In return, I'll finish the pact." The collector tilted its head with unsettling slowness. "Offer accepted." Rowan blinked. "Too easy. Much too easy." "Wait," she said quickly. "I haven't said what I'm offering." The collector leaned in. "You offer yourself." "No," Rowan's voice cracked. "I didn't. It is the only offering due." Behind the collector, the souls stirred eagerly, hungrily. Rowan grasped the altar for balance. "There has to be another way." The candles flickered violently. The ground trembled. Dust fell from the rafters. The collector's body stretched taller, limbs elongating, shadow tendrils unfurling like the legs of an enormous spider. "The 9th Meredith child is owed as payment. You are that child. Step forward." "No," Rowan backed away. "Step forward." Rowan gripped the knife, her heart racing so fast she felt dizzy. But she didn't move. Something flickered behind her eyes. Her great-grandmother's diaries. The drawings. The final entry, one Rowan hadn't understood at the time. The collector cannot claim what is not offered freely. Rowan froze. Was that true? Or was it desperation tricking her memory? The collector moved closer, its shadow form swelling to fill the entire corner of the basement. She took a breath. "Then I refuse." The entire basement shook. The candles blew out again. The collector roared, not loudly, but with a sound that scraped the air like tearing metal. "Refusal breaks the pact." Rowan stumbled backward. The shadows surged forward like a sentient wave. And then, the basement door slammed open. The man with the broken face. Detective Marlowe stood at the top of the stairs. But this time, he looked wrong in a different way. Not hollow. Not possessed. Wounded. His nose was broken, blood covering half his face. One of his hands clutched the railing for balance. His chest rose and fell in short, shallow breaths. He wasn't a puppet anymore. He was terrified. "Rowan," he shouted. "Run, get out of the house." Rowan felt tears spring to her eyes. "I can't, he's here." Marlowe didn't let her finish. He stepped into the basement, and every candle flared hot white. The shadows recoiled violently as if burned. The collector shrieked, its shape compressing. Rowan stared. Why was it reacting like that? Marlowe reached the bottom of the stairs, panting. "Your house, the whole place is wired with old sigils. Protection spells from your grandmother." They're failing, but they're still strong enough to weaken it. The collector snapped its head toward Marlowe. He froze mid-step, pinned by something unseen. His feet lifted 2 inches off the ground. "Marlowe!" Rowan screamed. The collector began pulling him toward the center of the room, shadows stretching like black vines around his arms. Rowan sprinted forward without thinking. "No, take me instead." The shadows loosened instantly. Marlowe collapsed to the ground, gasping. The collector turned its void face toward Rowan again. "You choose properly." "No," Rowan said through her teeth. "I'm not choosing. I'm buying time." Before the creature could react, Rowan grabbed the silver bowl from the altar and slashed her palm with the knife. Blood pooled quickly. She lifted the bowl and threw its contents across the floor. The blood splattered in a crude circle. The air rippled. Every shadow shrieked at once. Blood circles trap. Blood binds. It was crude. Imperfect. But it worked. The collector's massive form jerked backward as if hooked by chains. Its limbs strained, shadows clawing at the edges of the circle. Rowan held the knife out, chest heaving. "You can't leave that circle unless I break it. And I won't. Not unless you tell me how to stop the pact." The collector's form shuddered, stretching thin as it pushed against the blood barrier. "Break the circle," it hissed. "And they live." "All of them?" Rowan demanded. "Everyone you've ever taken?" The collector didn't answer. Shadows twisted. Faces cried out. Limbs wavered like smoke. Rowan's voice cracked. "Tell me." Then the creature did something it had never done before. It showed emotion. Not anger. Not hunger. If the pact ends, we die." Rowan blinked. "What?" The collector shuddered again, its body thinning. "We are bound to your bloodline. Created by it. Fed by it. You end the pact, you end us." Marlowe staggered upward. "Rowan, don't listen. It's manipulating you." But Rowan was no longer sure. The diaries, the rituals, the offerings. What if the collector wasn't a demon? What if it was something her ancestors made? A protector twisted into a monster over decades of fear and starvation? Her stomach twisted violently. "How do I break the pact?" she asked, voice trembling. The collector's form flickered. It leaned forward until its face nearly touched the edge of the blood circle. "Your death ends it." Rowan froze. Marlowe swore under his breath. "Don't you dare, Rowan, don't even consider that." But the collector continued. "Your bloodline began the pact. Your bloodline ends the pact. One life, yours, frees the rest." Rowan's grip on the knife shook. She saw faces in the shadows. Camille, Jonah, the Holloways, all staring, waiting. Were they begging her to do it? Or begging her not to? She whispered, "If I die, they're released?" The collector nodded slowly. "Yes." Marlowe grabbed her arm. No, Rowan, don't. There's another way. There has to be." Rowan swallowed hard. Her pulse thundered in her ears. "Why me?" she whispered. The collector pressed a shadowed hand against the invisible barrier. "Because you are the vessel. The blood key. The chosen end." Rowan thought of her mother. Her grandmother. Her ancestors, all hiding this secret, all trying to outrun it. Maybe they couldn't. Maybe she couldn't either. But she could end it. Right here. Right now. She lifted the knife. Marlowe's eyes widened with horror. "Rowan, please." Her hand shook uncontrollably. She closed her eyes. And then, she heard Camille's voice. Not as a whisper. Not as a ghost. Painful. "Don't die for us." Rowan gasped. Her eyes flew open. The shadows, the souls, weren't urging her to sacrifice herself. They were begging her to survive. Begging her to break the cycle without joining them. "Marlowe," she said, voice trembling. "Help me figure out the real way." He nodded, breath still ragged. Yes, okay, there's something here we're missing." Rowan turned back to the collector. "If killing me is the only way, then why force it? Why not just take me? You dragged the others out of their homes." The collector froze. Rowan stepped closer. "You can't kill me. That's the rule, isn't it?" The shadows pulsed violently. "You said it yourself," Rowan continued. I have to offer myself. The pact can't be completed unless I accept it. Marlowe's eyes widened. Rowan, you're right. The collector's form glitched in the candlelight, flickering between shapes. Offer yourself, it demanded. No, Rowan said firmly. The shadows around the collector writhed in agony. Rowan raised the knife. Not toward herself. Toward the blood circle. Then she slashed her palm again and smeared her blood across the floor, not breaking the circle, but changing it, turning the crude binding into a sigil she'd seen in her grandmother's final entry. A reversal mark. A banishment. The candles exploded with light. The circle glowed red. The collector screamed, a deep, primal sound that shook dust from the ceiling boards. Its body splintered into dozens of shadow tendrils, all thrashing, reaching, clawing at the floor. The souls behind it tore free, their forms brightening, lifting upward. Camille whispered, "Thank you." The collector lunged at Rowan, but its limbs dissolved before reaching her. Its void face cracked like shattered glass. But in one violent burst of light, it exploded into ash. The basement went silent. Every candle went out. The last of the shadows evaporated. Rowan collapsed to her knees, sobbing with exhaustion. Marlowe lowered himself beside her, placing a careful hand on her shoulder. "It's over," he whispered. Rowan wiped her face. "Is it? Really?" Marlowe nodded. "He's gone. The pact is broken." Rowan looked at the dark stains on the floor where the collector had been. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Then why? Do I still feel like someone's watching us?" Marlowe froze. The house groaned above them. The temperature dropped. And from the far corner of the basement, a new shadow slowly formed. Not tall. Not monstrous. Human-sized. Familiar. Rowan's breath caught. It was her great-grandmother's silhouette. The shadow raised one hand, pointing upward. Rowan whispered, "What?" The shadow's voice drifted through the basement like cold wind. "You ended the pact." Rowan swallowed. "Yes." The shadow tilted its head. "But not the hunger." The basement door slammed shut. The lights went out. A new whisper filled the dark. "Something else has awakened." Rowan grabbed Marlowe's hand in the pitch black. And the story of Wickford was not over.